The road stretched ahead like a ribbon of black silk, slick from the rain that had fallen hours earlier. Streetlights flickered like distant warning signals, casting long, uneven shadows across the wet asphalt outside Birmingham, Alabama. Only a few cars punctuated the night, their headlights slicing through the darkness, bouncing off puddles in fractured beams. Lieutenant Commander Renee Dawson gripped the steering wheel with hands that had been trained to handle high-stakes crises overseas. Yet tonight, her battlefield was different. She wasn't in uniform, just a simple black sweater, jeans, hair pulled back. She hummed along to a soft jazz tune on the car radio, letting the rhythm keep her alert but calm. Then came the flash. Red and blue lights reflecting in her rearview mirror, closing in fast. Her stomach clenched. Not from fear, but from exhaustion and the knowledge that what came next could change everything. She signaled, eased onto the shoulder, and waited. The heavy boots hitting asphalt, the flashlight flicking across her car. A name on a badge gleaming in the night. Briggs. No greeting, no explanation, just the weight of assumed authority. This was the moment she realized. Some people believed fear was enough to bend reality to their will. But they hadn't met Renee Dawson. Can one woman's courage stop a man who thinks he's untouchable? Stay tuned. And before we go further, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a story that matters. License and registration, Briggs said flatly, extending his hand just out of reach. No warmth, no explanation. Renee handed over her documents slowly, deliberately. Was I speeding, officer? She asked, voice calm, controlled. Briggs didn't answer. His eyes scanned the car as if searching for hidden weapons or a reason to assert dominance. You're arguing with me, he finally said. A beat of silence. The quiet tension before confrontation. The unspoken moment when power tested power. Renee's military training kicked in. She knew her rights. She knew how far he could push, and she also knew where he would slip. I'm just saying, she said evenly. My taillights were checked a few weeks ago, but if there's an issue, I can get it fixed. Briggs cut her off sharply. Step out of the car. She did. The night air was cool, the asphalt wet under her feet. Hands visible, movements calm but purposeful. Not a woman waiting to be intimidated, one trained to observe, calculate, survive. Would stepping out of the car make her safer? Or mark the beginning of a nightmare? Turn around. Hands on the car, Briggs ordered. Renee paused. For what reason? His smirk vanished. A flicker of irritation crossed his face. But she held her ground. You're under arrest, he barked, yanking her arms behind her back. Obstructing an officer, he called it. The cuffs were tight, his grip harsh. But Renee didn't panic. She knew two paths lay ahead. Comply and fight later, or resist and risk escalation. Her choice was clear. She would not be another statistic. She moved with deliberate precision, her hands on the roof of the car, her body calm. Briggs wasted no time shoving her toward the patrol car. But even in the back seat, plastic digging into her back, she remained unbroken. A traffic stop was meant to be routine. But this night would change everything. For both of them. The patrol car lurched back onto the road, red and blue reflections bouncing in her side mirrors. Briggs smirked, certain of control. You know, he said casually, most people just keep quiet when I tell them to step out. Most officers don't arrest people for questioning. Renee replied, calm, measured. He chuckled, annoyed by her composure. The tension in the air thickened like smoke. She didn't react. Every word, every gesture, every pause calculated. Briggs, for the first time, felt unsure. The station loomed ahead, gray bricks and empty parking spaces. The late-night isolation, the dim lights, he thought it was his domain. She knew otherwise. The night was far from over, and the real test was just beginning. Would power trump principle, or would justice find a way? Inside, the air smelled of old coffee and stale sweat. Metal benches pressed against her back as she was processed. Fingerprints, mugshot, the same indifference she had seen in conflict zones overseas. Officers going through the motions. Briggs led her to the cell, cuffs biting her wrists, chest high, head unbowed. "Enjoy your stay," he sneered. Renee sank onto the metal bench. The chill pressed into her, grounding her. Not a battle of strength, but one of patience, control, and strategy. Minutes passed. The hum of fluorescent lights. The faint shuffle of papers. Then footsteps. Heavy, familiar. Briggs returned, smirk plastered. "You know if you played along." "Oh, I'm exactly where I need to be," she replied, slow, deliberate. One night, one officer, one woman. An unstoppable clash of principle and arrogance. And the story was far from over. Briggs, frustrated, ranted. But then, a young officer approached hesitantly with a clipboard. "Sergeant, you need to see this," he said, voice unsure. Briggs' smirk faltered. "Call a lawyer a higher authority." The unshakable confidence of a man used to control began to crack. Renee, calm and poised, watched it unfold. The first cracks in Briggs' armor were visible, and she did not intervene. The system was beginning to respond, her patience and dignity doing the talking. Could a single night behind bars, with nothing but composure and resolve, bring down a man who thought he was untouchable? Sunlight spilled across polished floors. Renee stood near the defendant's table, blazer crisp, presence commanding. No cuffs, no cell, just clarity and purpose. Briggs entered, confident yet stiff. Something shifted, he wasn't in control anymore. Judge Kirkland presided, weary but fair. The prosecutor laid out the case. Unlawful detention, pattern of misconduct, racial profiling. Briggs faltered under scrutiny. The courtroom murmured as evidence stacked against him. How do you take a man who thought he owned the law and show him the truth? The footage played. The room went silent. Briggs barking orders. Renee calm. The cuffs tight. The escalation unnecessary. Judge Kirkland's voice cut through the tension. "Sergeant Briggs, you violated protocol. Charges dismissed." The gavel's sound was a punctuation mark, a sound resonating far beyond the walls of that room. Rehook. One video, one truth, one reckoning. The man who intimidated thought he was untouchable, but the system saw differently. Across town, Briggs faced Chief Baker. 30 years of authority in one room. No smirk, no excuses. "You don't get it," Briggs tried. Baker cut him off. "People like you think rules don't apply. Your career is over." The words landed like a hammer. Suspension. Internal affairs. Public scrutiny. He was powerless. How does someone who believed in absolute control react when it's stripped away? Renee, sipping coffee in a quiet cafe, scrolling through headlines. Viral footage. Public support. She smiled. The fight wasn't over. Not for her, not for others. But this victory was undeniable. Her fight was bigger than herself. Every black person intimidated by a badge had a reason to hope. What happens when courage meets injustice head-on? The answer is powerful. By mid-morning, Renee's story had spread like wildfire. Phones buzzed, notifications pinged, news outlets covering the viral video. Headlines screamed, "Lieutenant Commander wrongfully arrested. Officer under investigation." She sat quietly, scrolling through comments, some supportive, some incredulous. The weight of public attention didn't faze her. She had already fought through far worse challenges in hostile zones overseas. A reporter's voice called outside the cafe. "Lieutenant Commander Dawson, can you comment?" She paused, considering, then smiled faintly. Justice isn't a one-night victory. It's accountability, and that's what matters. The camera crews captured the image of a calm, resolute woman. Not just a victim, but a figure of strength, courage, and dignity. The story was bigger than Briggs. But could public scrutiny alone dismantle a system built on unchecked power? Stay with us. Her phone buzzed again. Carla Whitman, her attorney, had updates. Briggs has been suspended. Internal Affairs is reviewing all his cases. You did what no one else could. Renee leaned back, letting the weight of those words sink in. Renee closed her eyes, recalling the dark highway outside Birmingham. The slick asphalt, the flickering lights, the smirk on Briggs' face as he tried to intimidate her. Every detail was etched into her memory. She remembered the cuff burn, the cold metal bench, the isolation. And she remembered her own calm, how it had become her weapon. The reflection wasn't just personal, it was a blueprint for others. How to navigate danger, maintain composure, and demand respect without escalating violence. She realized her story could serve as a guide for countless others in similar situations. What if one person's calm courage could change the lives of thousands? Her phone rang. It was her captain. "Renee, I assume you've seen the news." "I have," she replied, steady. "The Department of Defense is taking interest. They might want a statement or testimony," he said. His tone softened. "This reflects something bigger than one incident." She exhaled slowly, considering. She had never sought attention, never craved headlines. But she understood the weight of her story now. It could highlight systemic issues and inspire policy change. When courage intersects with responsibility, can a single voice amplify an entire movement? Renee thought about the countless men and women without her rank, her legal access, her connections. Those who endured unlawful stops, intimidation, abuse, but lacked recourse. She understood the ripple effect. One officer, unchecked, could harm dozens, maybe hundreds. But accountability, video evidence, persistent reporting, courage in the moment, could shift the balance. Her fight wasn't only for herself anymore. It was for everyone who might face Briggs or others like him. Could one night, one act of defiance, ignite lasting reform in a broken system? Weeks later, Renee received an invitation from the mayor's office. They wanted to recognize her professionalism, her courage. She smirked at the irony. A woman publicly lauded for standing her ground while exposing wrongdoing. A reminder that moral courage often faces opposition before applause. Renee weighed her options. Public recognition was symbolic, but it could further the message of accountability. Accepting or declining was more than personal, it was strategic. How do you decide when to step into the spotlight and when to let your actions speak for themselves? Across town, children played in the park, their laughter unburdened by the injustices of the world. Renee watched, thinking of future generations. Every victory against abuse of power, every moment she stood firm, sent a ripple through time. She had fought for herself, but also for them. For the boys and girls who deserved to grow up in a world where badges didn't equate to unchecked authority. Her steps were deliberate, her presence commanding, her purpose clear. Accountability matters. Courage matters. And change begins with action. Can one act of bravery today shape the lives of tomorrow? Renee's journey suggested it could. Briggs' career unraveled. Suspension, internal investigation, public scrutiny. Renee emerged victorious, not through aggression, but through discipline, knowledge, and courage. The courthouse, the cell, the patrol car, they were mere stages for a larger lesson. Unchecked power is dangerous, but it is not invincible. One voice, one action, one refusal to be silenced can shift the tide. Renee stepped into the afternoon sun, confident, unbowed, ready for what came next. Not just a victory for herself, but a precedent, a beacon, a reminder. Justice is worth fighting for. This story isn't just hers. It belongs to anyone who's ever faced intimidation or injustice. If Renee's courage inspired you, hit that subscribe button, share the story, and join the conversation about change, accountability, and courage.